Right. I'm seeing a lot of them are joining in. So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our webinar titled Global Migration and Residency Outlook 2025. We are delighted to have you here, and we truly appreciate you taking the time to be part of this session. Today's webinar will be presented by Desmond Ang, our licensed migration advisor, the managing director of Global Migration Solutions. Desmond brings years of expertise in facilitating migration to various countries and will be guiding you tonight through the different migration options available for the countries. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. We will do our best to answer as many as we can during the session. And if time doesn't allow us to get all of them, rest assured we'll follow up with you after the webinar. Once again, thank you for being here. We hope you find this session informative and valuable as you consider your journey. Desmond, you may start the session now.
Thanks, Asmita. Hi, everyone. It is our pleasure to have all of you here. My name is Desmond Ang, and I'm delighted to share some insights on the topic of global residency and to help you to explore how you can access new opportunities, the mobility and the lifestyle choices across the borders. And I hope today's session, will give you a better understanding of the different residency pathway that is available, as well as the key trend, that's shaping the global migration industry today. Now, let's look into what we are going to be covering. I'll be sharing with you the various governments' strategies and the migrations policy available at the moment. And then I will highlight some of the key popular programs available and share some comparative among those programs. And I would also like to share some of the factors you should be taken into considerations when deciding, which potentially is the best programs that suit you and your family members. Okay. Now, let's start off with the New Zealand. So New Zealand, under these jurisdictions, the government has been putting a lot of efforts to promote the investment programs. And on the 1st of April this year, the government has made a major changes to the existing investor program, and which made this program a lot more attractive. And you can see the government has putting in a lot of efforts to also launching a new programs that is for those investor or the business owner who is looking at running a business or acquiring a business in New Zealand for the purpose of obtaining the permanent residency. And these programs, this new program, business program, is going to be available next month. So what I'll be sharing with you today probably, is a very exciting information that are available, in advance before this program is even get launched. Yeah. Now, what is the objective and what is the strategies of this, entire efforts behind, right? The New Zealand government is looking at trying to drive the jobs with the investment that's coming into the country that will help to create the job opportunity. And under the investment programs, the government has made a lot of encouragement to drive the investment towards the technology business, the innovative business, and a lot more, which we are going to be looking into that shortly. The government is looking at supporting a long-term residency stability. In other words, as you know, the New Zealand PR is permanent. So when we talk about, a permanent residency or a permanent status in New Zealand, that really, stays with you throughout life. So whether you're living in New Zealand or you're living outside New Zealand, your permanent residency stays forever. And there isn't a mandatory residency requirement for you to obtain, the New Zealand PR status. All right. Now, in general, the New Zealand program is also very friendly in terms of their encouraging, you to include your dependent children, and you can actually include your dependent children up to the age of 23 years old. And this generally is considered as a very attractive compared to other countries that I'll be sharing shortly. For example, if it is the United States, you're looking at obtaining the green card, the United the United States migration programs only allows the children up to who is below 21 years old. As for Australia, it is up to 22 years old, whereas the New Zealand generally does encourage and give you the flexibility to include your children who is up to 23 years old. And obviously, that also gives you, a pathway to a citizenship. Should you wish to consider the New Zealand citizenship, these programs, most of the migration programs or immigration programs from New Zealand does give you that pathway. So the government is also, trying to create, a stable and a safe environment for the migrants who are moving into the countries. Mm. So these are the key priorities for the New Zealand government. Let's move into the New Zealand's let's move into Australia. So Australia is currently under the Labour Party administration, and the Labour Party has given the priority and a lot of attention to the skill migration programs. So it is the programs that are currently available are very much a skill-based or an employment-based. And some of you might have read about the news, and what had happened in Australia on the 31st of August when there was demonstrations against the migration programs and the migrants into the country. Nonetheless, the next day, on the 1st of September, the Australian government has made, an announcement and be very clear, the government have no intentions to reduce the migration intake, and they are maintaining 185,000 places. So this is the planning level, running from 1st of July 2025 to 30th of June 2026. Yeah. And as I mentioned, the current programs emphasize a lot on, the skill talent and the innovation. That says, the current program has also removed some of the popular programs from the past, such as the business and investor visa program that was already closed last year, for those high net worth individuals who are looking at migrating or obtaining the PR through the business migration programs, the investment programs, which commonly known as subclass 188 visa. And just to clarify that this visa was permanently closed last year, July, and there isn't any new applications open up, for those who hasn't yet managed to lodge their application. The Australian government has also made the rules a lot more stringent for foreign students who are looking at studying in Australia. For example, the transitions from the graduates to the graduate visa is only capped at for those who is below 35 years old, for example. And the processing of the student's visa also, is a lot more stringent nowadays. They'll be assessing whether or not these students is genuinely, wanting to study in Australia, or they are using the student visa as a pathway to reside in Australia. So all this assessment is going to be taken into consideration. Now, another direction of the Australian government is to focus and also to encourage the migrants to live and work in the regional area. So Australia being a big country, so if we're looking at where is the regional area, so that generally referring to places other than Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. And anywhere that is 50 kilometers outside these three cities are considered as regional area. So the entire Western Australia, including Perth, for example, is considered as regional. South Australia, Adelaide is considered as regional area. Yeah, so again, those cities that are 50 kilometers outside the central CBD of Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane are all considered as regional. So these are the direction of the Australian governments or the immigration policy. So now let's move into the European the continent. Yeah, let's look into what the programs, what are the popular programs, and I've chosen two popular programs and two countries among all. The first one being Greece. So let's have a look at what is the immigration focus for this year. So given the current programs available, the countries are encouraging, those investors to invest into the real estate in returns, obtaining a residency status, yeah, through the Greece Golden Visa programs. And the investment amount is starting from the euro 250,000. Now, this is actually very interesting. When you get your visa approved, you are given a 5 years residency permit that says you and your family members are free to live in Greece over the 5 years periods. At the end of the 5 years, they'll be assessing whether or not you maintain your investment. If your investment is still being maintained, then you will get another 5 years of renew residency permit that goes on in every 5 years. So we're talking about those who is looking at living there, but we do also have another group of the clients who are not looking at moving to Greece, but all they want is to obtain a residency status, as a backup plan, for example, for various reasons. So these programs is actually very flexible in terms of the residency, as there isn't any minimum mandatory stay over the 5 years periods. Now, that gives you also a pathway, to obtain, the citizenship after 7 years. Yeah. So as most of you might have already known, when you are a citizen of one of the European country, then you become a citizen of the entire Europe. Yeah. That says you are given the flexibility to live, work, and to study within the Schengen area. For those who is looking at citizenship, so you do need to take notes. There are more stringent residency requirement. Yeah. Again, this is for those who is looking at obtaining a citizenship. So you're expected to spend generally more than 50% of your times in Greece in order to be able to apply to become a citizen of the Greece. And who can be included in the under this program? They do encourage, again, the spouse, the children below 21 years old, and dependents parents. And do take notes, you can also include your in-law in the application. So it is one investment of 250,000. They are opening up to 3 generations. Yeah. Let's move on to Portugal. This is one of my favorite, and this is also one of a very popular programs. Yeah, let's look at what is the priority of the Portuguese government. So last year, 2024, the Golden Visa programs has went through, a reform. So a real estate option, which was very popular in the past, had been removed from these programs. So no one can ever buy a property, and to be qualified for a Golden Visa anymore after the change in 2024. And the focus has shifted to funds, to innovations, to cultural and scientific projects. And let's look into that shortly. Yeah. And the investment, the amount has also increased from 280,000 previously, to 500,000. So because of the demand, and as this is one of the very good example, to share with you, the all the programs, is always getting harder and harder, and there is very few programs, that has went through the changes, and the governments reduce, the requirements. As the program getting more and more popular, the governments, take a level up, and make the programs more stringent. Yeah. So again, this is a 5 years residency permit Yeah, and if you wanted to just to maintain your residency status, do take notes. It does have slightly, there is a residency requirement, and that is 7 days per year. Yeah, and over the 5 years, you're expected to spend 35 days in Portugal. Unlike Greece, there isn't any residency requirements. This program does also open up, for you to apply to become a citizen 5 years later. Yeah. And this is a lot quicker, 2 years earlier than the Greece programs. In terms of the family members who can be included, your spouse, dependent children, there isn't any age limit, whether it has gone past 24 years old, 25 or 26, as long as your children are still studying and financially depending upon you, and you can include your children without any age limit. As for the dependent parents, likewise, you can include both the parents and your in-law in the application, provided they are your dependents. And that says you have to show that they are living with you and financially you are supporting them, right? These programs, why is it so popular? Because it does give you, a door. So more often the times, migrants or the visa applicants are using the Portugal as an entry point to obtain, the citizenship, because the residency to obtain the citizenship with a very low residency requirements of only 35 days, yeah, is very encouraging. Yeah. So that gives that this is a golden opportunity for those who wants to take up a EU citizenship. Yeah, with a wider mobility within the second country. Yeah, and to enjoy the different lifestyle, different benefits, different employment opportunity for the childrens as they grow up. Yeah. Last, let's have a look at the US immigration focus. Well, I think every one of us has read about news, good or bad, from United States, looking at the current under the Trump administrations. There's also a lot of changes on the migrations programs. To obtain a green card, you either go through the family stream or the employment stream. So the family stream is the one that is largely affected. You might came across news such as a green card holder, and those who are being sponsored, by the family members and are facing some challenge and difficulties to get their green card status renewed, for example, that that applies to those under the family stream, whereas for those under the employment stream, under the investment stream, there is very minimum changes to that. That says Trump's administration, has introduced through an executive order, a golden card program, which relatively has a much or higher investment threshold compared to the current investment programs, EB5 programs. And we have seen a longer processing time. We have also seen a more stringent sources of fund check. Yeah. And that is because high net worth individual, especially for those first top three countries, yeah, being China, India and Vietnam. And the number of the applications, surprisingly, is still very high in demand. Yeah, and a lot more stringent requirements has been applicable to or applied to the programs. Okay, to be specific, let's have a look at the New Zealand, back to New Zealand. So we spoke about, the investment visa that was being introduced on the 1st of April. So we call this active investor plus visa. And in short, we always call this AIP programs. There are two options available. The first option falls under the growth category, and the investment amount is 5 million New Zealand dollar under the growth assets. And when we talk about growth assets, that refers to private managed funds, That refers to a direct investment onto the New Zealand businesses. And all those options, investment options, all the businesses are being uh, selected by the New Zealand government and the authority. You don't have the you don't have the flexibility to decide or set up your own company, for example. Yeah, but you have to invest onto one of those business that have been listed for the purpose of these programs. Now, why is that so? Well, I guess, the New Zealand government is trying to make sure that, those investments that are coming in are targeted onto those businesses that are looking at expansion. And also another side of it is the New Zealand government is trying to make sure that this program stays successful, and they do not encourage people to invest into business that have not been qualified, and the chances of the failure is much higher compared to those has been qualified by the New Zealand's the governments. And your investment generally is a lot more safer if you are going to be investing into those that are being or due diligence check has been done by the New Zealand government. So under this category for 5 millions, you can't, invest or any of the 5 millions onto the real estate. Yeah. And under this program, this is a very interesting programs. In fact, ever since, this program that was being introduced on the 1st of April, it is close to 330,000 applications that has been received globally, and out of which 95% of the applications are falls under this growth category. And simply because other than 5 million, all you need to do is to spend 21 days over the 3 years, yeah, to meet the requirements. So let's have a look at the second option, which is the active investor plus the balance category. So the investment amount is doubled up to 10 millions. However, you have a lot more flexibility and a lot more choices. Other than investing into the business, other than investing into the private managed funds, you do allow to invest into the real estates, especially if it is a commercial real estate, if it is a newly built residential real estates. You could also choose to invest into the government bonds or the private bonds or the bank bonds, for example. You could also spend the 10 millions and to invest into the share. And that says it gives you a lot more flexibility. However, the disadvantage is that it is doubling up the investment amount. Now, under these programs, you're expected to maintain your investment over a period of 5 years, of which you need to spend 105 days. So looking at these two options, I guess, you do have an answer on why 95% of the total applicants, choose the option one. Yeah. Now, coming up, next month, we have this business investment investor work visa. And this is generally looking at, those migrants who has existing business experience and who is looking at running businesses in New Zealand. And they are also, similar to the investment programs. There are two options and two category, but the investment is generally a lot more lower. So it is a 1 million and the 2 millions investment, the business investment option. For those who choose the 1 million category, it is a 3 years to the work to residence visa. Yeah. So that says, we are expecting, yet we have not yet seen the full detailed policy manual yet. Yeah, which are going to be available within the next 2 weeks or so. And these programs does require you to invest, and to maintain the business over the 3 years periods before you're given the residency status. Yeah. So when we talk about residency status, basically that refers to, the status, the residence status where you are enjoying, the full benefits as a citizen in New Zealand. Under the 2 millions category, this is a fast track to the residency status after 12 months periods. Yeah. And there is a shareholding requirements you're expected to hold at least 25% or more share, holding in the company. Other than that, you must be below 55 years old, and you must also show, and in addition to 1 million or the 2 million, you do have additional 500,000 of fundings available for the settlement purposes. This comes with an English requirements. Unlike the investment programs, there isn't any English requirements. Under this business category, you must meet, an English of IELTS test of minimum 5 or above. Of course, you must be able to demonstrate some relevant business background. Yeah. And to make sure that what you are investing, the business that you're investing must hire at least 5 staff or more. Okay. So moving to Australia programs, as I mentioned earlier, Australia program is very much focusing on, the employment and the skill. Having said that, the family stream has always been there. Yeah, the refugee program has always been there. And the post-study pathway is available for the international students who has graduated from Australia, who wanting to leave, and stay back in Australia. And the post-study pathway is also available. Yeah. But again, you no longer see the business and investment visa programs that are available for Australia. I would like to talk slightly more about the skill migration programs for Australia. You do have 3 options. The first option being subclass 189, the skill independent visa. When we talk about the skill migration programs, there isn't a work requirements, as in, you do not need to be employed to apply for that visa. It is strictly based upon, your current experience, your qualification, whether your point stays competitive. Yeah. So it is whole lots of, the criteria for you to be able to apply. If you are very competitive, you do have a high point, you meet the English requirements, then and your jobs falls under, the medium to long term category, then that 189 is open for you. And we do have 190 and 491 under these 2 options. Like same like 189, you need to be employed, yeah, by the Australian employer to apply for this 190 and 491. However, under the 190 and 491 visa category, you must be sponsored or nominated by the respective states government. Yeah. So a quick one, for the Greece Golden Visa programs, as I mentioned earlier, is very much, real estate's focus, with an investment of 250,000 euro or more. That gives you, a 5 years permit to live in Greece if you want to. If you do not wish to, then there isn't any stay or residency requirements to be able to renew, after the end of the 5 years. So with that residency visa, that gives you a free Schengen travel, especially for those passport holder who needed to apply for the visa as and when they travel to the Schengen country. With this residency visa, you do have the flexibility to travel within the 26 country within, in the Schengen area. And with again, with options or a pathway for you to apply for a citizenship, yeah, with the condition, especially, you are expected to spend majority of your time, in Greece over the 7 years. Okay. Yeah, we spoke about who can be included in the application. Yeah. And let's have a look at the benefits. Uh, this is with this visa, this generally as compared to a few others programs, this program just, require a much lower investment threshold. Yeah. And if your choice is to have, this residency visa to live, in Greece before you obtain the citizenship, then you do enjoy the education benefits, you do enjoy the healthcare, within, the Greece. Yeah. Rental income from the property, if you do not live, or stay in the property, you can rent out the property, and you can generate the rental income. So what I wish to highlight over here is generally the law, the taxation law is very flexible and is very friendly to the foreign investment, yeah, or the foreign investor. Portugal Golden Visa, which is very, very popular over the years, especially migrants from United States, migrants from Asia are getting a lot more popular now. So, and the investment of the 500,000 goes into the funds, for example. Yeah. And just to highlight again, it is a much shorter transitions to the citizenship, yeah, after 5 years. And this 5 years starts counting from the date when you file the golden visa. Yeah. And the current processing time would take you at least 2 years to 2.5 years. Yeah. And that doesn't impact on the counting of the 5 years because the law had changed and which made the 5 years counting from the date of the submission of your Portugal golden visa. Again, this is something that is very encouraging. But having said that, do take notes. The citizenship law, yeah, is expected to change in the near future, which is going to extend the 5 years duration to at least 7 years to 10 years, yeah, ranging between 7 years to 10 years. So for those who has already embarked, on the programs, then the 5 year is still applicable to them. The benefits, similar to the Greece golden visa, you do enjoy the benefits of traveling within Schengen area. Like what I've mentioned earlier, most of the people are using Portugal as an entry point, to obtain the EU citizenship and, with the benefits of being able to live within 26 countries in the second area. And that says it includes, the island, the southern, from the central to the south island. And this is actually very suitable for those, for those family members with a children who plan, to study medicines. As it could be very costly, as a foreign students, but with this Portugal golden visa, as you has taken up, the citizenship, that opens, the education opportunity, within that 26 country, and you're considered as a local residents or a local students. And your children do have the options and the choice to live anywhere they like within the 26 country. Okay. Talking about the US, I spoke about a green card. However, in my opinion, and what we have seen in the market, this EB5 visa is generally a much better program as compared to the, to the gold card. So with the gold card, it is a 1 million investment. No, it is a 1 million donation. Yeah, it's not even an investment because that 1 million is going to be donated to, the country, and you do not get your 1 million back. However, under this EB5 programs, which was being implemented and introduced back in 1990, and every several years, these changes have taken place, and the current EB5 programs is valid until September 30th, 2027, with the law form, in 2022. Yeah. Under the current program, you can choose to invest 800,000 if your investment is to be invested into the targeted employment area or the rural area and all high unemployment area, and you're investing this into several and various projects represented by the regional center. And these regional center are the licensed investment company that has been approved by the US government to manage your investment and to recommend your investment on what you could choose to invest your 800,000 onto. If you are going to choose, the projects that are outside the targeted employment area, and the investment amount, is raised to 1.05 million. Yeah. So this is a quick overview on the EB5 programs. Now, last, let me share with, all of you here, and this is based upon, the experience that we have gathered over the last 21 years. And what we have seen, how we guide the clients when they decide on, which is the best programs, that suit their migration objective. First of all, I would like to, to suggest that you consider, what is your objective, what is the reason behind, whether it is for the children's education, or whether or not this is as a contingent, this is for the contingency plan, or for the purpose of, obtaining a citizenship so that you can do a better, financial planning, for the global, assets. Yeah. So this has to be identified clearly, because every one of you, every family might have a different priority in terms of the objective and what they wanted to achieve. So it is good, to if you have friends or family members who has already moved to the country, it is always good to have a chat with them to hear about their experience. Nonetheless, my suggestion to you is do not get confused by talking to too many people, and you must stick. What is relatively what is important is you must stick to your objective, yeah, and then take the experience, and the advice and the idea from, friends or family member. Yeah, because again, look at what is your priority. Okay. You should also be looking into, the investment options available from respective programs. Whether if you prefer the property-based investment, then look for the programs that allows you to invest into the property. If you have business plan, and you're looking at setting up a business, or run a business in those jurisdiction or in those country, as part of the migration, the planning, then look at the programs that allow you, to set up the business. If you just want to be, a passive investor, then look at the programs that allow you to invest into the funds, for example. Yeah. Do also consider, how much time you can spend. So you do not want to get into a programs that require generally, a long residency status if you're not ready to move over yet. So you should also be taken into consideration, right? The processing time, by when, what is your commitment to be able to, maintain, the visa. Applying for that programs is one, but maintaining the status is, another consideration you should be taken into accounts from the beginning. Also, you should be looking at the cost. Yeah, how much is the fee? Make sure that you pay, if you're engaging, a migration lawyer, or a licensed advisor, do make sure that you're dealing with only the qualified advisor, and whether or not the fee is competitive. Speak to a few companies to make sure that you know what you're getting into, right? Do also get to ask questions such as, what is the tax implication, for example, right? And then, the maintenance cost. So whether or not that visa need to be renewed, and then if the status need to be renewed, then what is the cost? Yeah, as if you remember, earlier I spoke about New Zealand permanent residency's lifetime. There is a renewable process. For example, there isn't any cost. However, if it is Australia, for example, the PR comes in every 5 years, and you should be aware about what is the cost of renewing the PR. So make sure that you go through all this question, with your advisor. Then look at the stability of the country in terms of the economy. What is the policy and the direction of the governments at the moment, right? Get to know what is the right, whether there is any, if it is a property, chances is, if you're going to move there, you would need, a property for your own residence, for example. Do ask questions such as, whether there is any hidden cost, there is any holding cost, for you to stay, or if you are not, then what are the costs, yeah, in order to maintain the property. Take also into consideration, the schooling opportunity, the healthcare support system, and who can be included in the application or not. All this should be taken into consideration from the beginning. Yeah. Do also find out whether or not there's any upcoming changes and law change on the programs, whether there's going to be a change of, the government who is going to undergoing, a major changes to the migration strategy. So these are the things that you should open up, to discuss. Yeah. So do also find out whether or not the country has, a friendly tax system for a foreigner. Yeah. So these are the typical, some factors that I would like you to suggest. If you are managing all those considerations carefully, then that would actually give you, some direction onto, which are the popular programs, or rather, which are the programs that suit, you and your family members. Okay, just a little bit about us. GMS stands for Global Migration Solutions. We are a government licensed migration consulting firm, with, 21 years of the experience. And this company was being set up since 2004. And the business and our services are built, with the trust, and we are committed to deliver, and to make sure that the clients are receiving and achieving their objective. Yeah, for those who has put a trust on us. And we focus on, the success. That says, from the beginning, we meet with the client, particularly, only myself, the other business partner, James Allen Hall, who is also a licensed immigration advisor, and our associate director, Audrey, who are advising clients. One of us are going to be advising clients from the day one. We generally do not, have, a team of the consultant or the staff who are dealing with the immigration advisory work, or to provide immigration advice to the clients. We make sure that we take them on board, and assess them, and determine their eligibility from the beginning. Yeah, by among three of us, and we carry them through, the process until, they have achieved their goal. Over the last 21 years, we have helped more than 13,000 family members successfully, family, so successfully obtaining their permanent residency through various countries, and we are known by our high successful records. So being a licensed advisor, and my license or Jim's license are being renewed on the yearly basis. So we maintain, the high successful rate, the successful our success records, and we stay up to date with all the migration changes in order to be able to get our license renewed on the yearly basis. Yeah. Now, last, we do put on the we do, to deliver and updates, the migrations, provide the migration updates on the weekly basis. So if you were to scan this barcode, which link you up to all the social media that we give the immigration updates on the weekly basis. So I would like to suggest that, you take a, you scan this barcode so that you get up to dates, from us. Okay. Now, so I hope, all of you managed to scan this barcode. Last, what is the next step? If you need a proper guidance from us, and how are you going to reach out to us, you can also scan this. This is our WhatsApp, the QR code. So scan this and reach out to us, and tell us how, what is your needs, and you can then ask to set up, a private consultation with myself, or our associate director, Audrey Anthony, and James Allen Hall. Okay. So thank you. This is my sharing for this evening. And I hope, you get some latest update, and some guidance from what I've shared with you. Yeah, and stay in touch if you need further assistance. Okay, thank you for listening to our sharing. Okay, thank you. And over to you, please, Ashmita.
Thank you, Desmond. Thank you for this amazing session. So let's proceed to the next session, which is the Q&A. So you have a few questions before heading for our dinner. All right, first
Sure.
question. Are holders of the Greece Golden Visa permitted to work in Greece?
Okay, there isn't, unfortunately, for the Greece Golden Visa, there isn't any work. You can't work. There isn't any work, right? Yeah. So you can set up a business, you can run business. However, you can't be on the employment. Yeah, unfortunately. Unlike the Portugal Golden Visa, you do have the work rights, you do have the rights to run the business, but this doesn't apply to the Greece Golden Visa.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so the second question. Between Portugal and Greece, which program offers a better pathway to EU citizenship?
Well, if you do have the financial capacity, instead of 250,000 but 500,000, certainly, the Portugal Golden Visa, would give you a better pathway. Reason being, it is a much quicker residency. sorry, a quicker transition to the citizenship, which is 5 years later. And during that 5 years, you're not required to, maintain or to clock or to meet that majority of time in Portugal. And we do see that most of the clients do not move to Portugal. They might travel to Portugal once a year or even once in every 2 years just to meet the 35, days of the residency. Yeah. And that, is good enough to allow you to be able to apply, for the citizenship. And do also, take notes again, just to reinstate that 5 years counts from the date of the visa submission. Yeah. So given, for example, it is taking two to 2.5 years to process. So upon the approval, so it just takes you another 2.5 years to be able to submit, the application for the citizenship. So these are all the, plus point about the Portugal Golden Visa. Yes.
Great. All right. Okay, let's take one last question for tonight. Okay. Can a New Zealand permanent resident work in Australia?
No, unfortunately, yeah. So the New Zealand permanent residents keep all your rights, full rights, within New Zealand. That says, you can live, work, and study, and that applies to all of you in the family units. Do take notes. New Zealand PR does also has an additional right, which is a voting rights. You do not need to be a citizen, for you to vote, yeah, in New Zealand. If you are looking at, using New Zealand, as a pathway to Australia, then you have to go from the New Zealand PR to become a New Zealand citizen before that give you an access to Australia. Okay. And hopefully that gives you, that answer your question.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much, Desmond. And also thank you very much, everyone, for staying with us throughout the webinar. It's almost dinner time, so we'll be wrapping up here. Due to time constraints, we weren't able to address all your questions, but we will be reaching out to you individually. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact us via WhatsApp or email. And have a good evening, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Bye bye.